My name is Milan Toma, and I'm an associate professor at the New York Institute of Technology, College of Osteopathic Medicine. Welcome to the Psychology of Health, where each episode is dedicated to translating complex, health-related scientific studies into clear, unbiased summaries, no personal opinions, no hype, and no misinformation. My sole aim is to make the very best peer-reviewed evidence accessible and actionable for everyone. Today, I'm taking a closer look at a phenomenon that affects millions of adults around the world, yet remains profoundly misunderstood: weight cycling. Also known as yo-yo dieting, this pattern of gradual weight gain, repeated attempts at weight loss, and the frustrating return of lost pounds, sometimes with interest, has come to feel almost inevitable for many people. For far too long, this weight cycling has been accepted simply as an unavoidable part of getting older, an inevitable consequence of aging. The standard explanation offered, and one that is widely believed across society, is that our metabolism naturally slows down as we age, making weight gain unavoidable and simultaneously making weight loss increasingly difficult with each passing decade. But here is the vital point we need to address right away. This conventional wisdom, while perhaps intuitively appealing to those struggling with their weight, is simply not supported by the robust scientific evidence we have today. Today, I'm going to examine what truly drives this phenomenon of weight cycling, challenge these widespread misconceptions about metabolic changes that occur with age, and, most importantly, reveal the incredibly complex biological and behavioral factors that conspire to make sustained weight management such an intense challenge. Understanding these underlying mechanisms is absolutely vital for anyone hoping to develop realistic expectations and, ultimately, effective strategies for achieving long-term weight control. Let's start by dismantling what we call the metabolism myth. For a great number of people, the period of midlife brings with it a gradual weight gain, a change often professionally and popularly explained as the inevitable consequence of a quote-unquote slowing metabolism. This belief system has profoundly influenced generations of dieters and clinicians alike, setting expectations that are, frankly, incorrect. However, recent large-scale scientific studies employing highly sophisticated techniques such as doubly labeled water and advanced multi-omics profiling have fundamentally overturned this long-held assumption. What these modern detailed studies demonstrate is fascinating. After appropriately adjusting for a person's total body size and their composition, total energy expenditure and basal energy expenditure actually remain remarkably stable throughout the majority of adulthood, specifically from the age of 20 all the way up to the age of 60. That much feared midlife metabolic slowdown, the one everyone blames for their weight gain, simply does not occur for the vast majority of adults. In fact, metabolism typically only begins to decline after a person reaches the age of 60, and even then, this decline happens at a surprisingly gradual rate. So, if our metabolism is not fundamentally slowing down between our 30s and 50s, why do so many of us experience weight gain during these decades? The answer, as the sources reveal, lies squarely in the lifestyle changes that very often accompany the accumulation of work, family, and social responsibilities in modern life. As we progress through adulthood, we tend to become significantly more sedentary. We spend considerably more hours sitting down, whether it is sitting at desks for work or sitting in cars while commuting. We often find ourselves with far less available time for dedicated exercise, and we face increased demands on our schedule that can easily displace both physical activity and the careful preparation of healthy, nutritious meals. Simultaneously, the environment around us shifts. Social gatherings, work-related meals, and the easy accessibility of convenient, calorie-dense foods become much more common fixtures in our daily lives. These behavioral and environmental factors combine together to inexorably create a gradual energy imbalance. This imbalance, over the course of years, results in the slow but persistent weight gain that we observe across the decades. It is also important to note that biological pressures can interact with these environmental and behavioral influences, ultimately working to establish a new and usually higher steady-state weight that the body attempts to defend. Therefore, the key point here is that most weight gain in adulthood is not actually caused by a slowing metabolism, but rather by predictable lifestyle changes that result in reduced physical activity and increased overall calorie intake. Now, let's discuss the cruel biological mechanism that makes each subsequent weight gain harder to reverse. Many people, upon noticing their weight steadily creeping up, resolve to fiercely get back to their earlier weight, the one they associate with being healthier or happier. However, attempts to lose this newly acquired weight, particularly when achieved through rapid or highly restrictive diets, are often met with a powerful, coordinated biological resistance from the body itself. When we initiate weight loss, especially through caloric restriction, our bodies are not thinking about our aesthetic goals or health spreadsheets. Instead, they interpret that calorie deficit as a genuine threat to our fundamental energy stores. This perceived threat triggers a profound set of adaptive responses. These responses include a significant increase in the sensation of hunger, a weakening of the signals that usually communicate satiety or fullness, and, critically, a slowing down of the body's metabolism to levels that are actually lower than what would normally be expected for the new reduced body weight. This phenomenon, which scientists sometimes refer to as adaptive thermogenesis, is fundamentally an evolved, ancient survival response designed to combat what the body perceives to be starvation. The body is doing exactly what it evolved to do: conserve energy when food is scarce. Extensive modern research conclusively demonstrates that the biological response following weight loss is both incredibly persistent and highly multidimensional. For example, levels of key hormones like leptin and insulin decrease dramatically, which signals to the brain that the energy stores are depleted. Furthermore, pathways within the hypothalamus and other neuroendocrine systems shift in a coordinated manner to actively increase the drive for hunger and simultaneously decrease the feeling of satiety. Finally, energy expenditure, encompassing both resting components and non-resting components, declines, even after researchers have accounted for the simple reduction in body mass. These specific biological adaptations are often particularly pronounced in individuals who have experienced obesity. Crucially, they can persist long after the actual weight loss has occurred, creating a metabolic environment where further weight loss becomes progressively harder, and the task of long-term maintenance becomes an escalating uphill battle. The brain plays a profoundly central and powerful role in this process as well. Following a period of weight gain, the brain eventually comes to accept and, even more concerningly, actively defend that higher weight as the new normal set point. When weight is subsequently lost, especially if the loss is rapid, the brain and the rest of the body coordinate their efforts to restore the lost weight, interpreting the energy deficit as a clear and present danger signal. As a direct result of these powerful homeostatic pressures, people who successfully lose weight often experience a long-lasting, persistent drop in their resting metabolic rate. They also demonstrate lower energy expenditure during their physical activities, and they suffer from stronger, more persistent physiological drives to eat, urges that can last for years after the weight loss has initially been achieved. Therefore, another vital key point to internalize is that during and after dieting efforts aimed at weight loss, the brain and body continue to vigorously defend the previous higher weight, thereby making any subsequent weight loss harder and actively promoting weight regain through a combination of metabolic and behavioral adaptations. This is why weight loss often feels like battling against your own physiology. This brings us directly to the vicious cycle of dieting and subsequent weight regain. If, following a period of dieting, a person returns to their former eating and activity patterns, the very patterns that caused the initial weight gain, they may find themselves regaining weight even more rapidly than they gained it the first time. Why does this rapid rebound occur? It happens because the person's metabolism remains suppressed, still operating under the lower rate established during the prior caloric deficit, while their calorie intake has returned to their earlier, higher levels. This yo-yo pattern, clinically termed weight cycling, creates a negative feedback loop. With each successive cycle of weight loss, followed by weight regain, the body can become even more highly efficient at conserving precious energy. Furthermore, the body's baseline metabolic rate may decrease even further after each cycle. This traps many people in a highly frustrating cycle of dieting, followed by a metabolic rebound, and ultimately leading to greater cumulative weight gain. It makes it progressively harder to lose weight the next time, and progressively easier to regain it. Research highlighted by McLean and colleagues underscores this intense biological pressure. They clearly highlight that this resulting energy gap, which is the physiological difference between the person's intensely increased appetite and their dramatically decreased energy expenditure, drives powerful physiological urges. These urges compel the individual to eat in excess of their new, lower energy requirements. The body marshals numerous resources to promote this weight regain. There are complex adaptive changes that occur in the structure and function of adipose tissue or fat tissue, in muscle tissue, and in the liver. Additionally, there are persistent alterations in the neuroendocrine system and in gut hormones. All of these systems conspire together to promote the regain of the lost mass. Notably, the authors of this research propose a profoundly important concept, that the homeostatic system within the body actually becomes retuned to defend an elevated weight. Crucially, after weight loss, the biological drive and impetus to regain the lost weight is often even stronger than the original drive that caused the person to gain the weight in the first place. This speaks volumes about the biological imperative at play. The consequences of this weight cycling extend beyond simple inconvenience. Cutting-edge multi-omic studies are now revealing that these cycles are far from being merely behavioral or psychological episodes. Instead, they are accompanied by detectable, significant waves of biological changes. These changes impact metabolism, inflammation markers, tissue structure, and measurable disease risk. These biological transitions seem to cluster around specific life periods, with major transitions frequently occurring around the ages of 40 to 45, and again around the ages of 60 to 65. The evidence suggests that each individual cycle of weight gain, followed by loss, may further dysregulate these vital molecular pathways, unfortunately increasing the person's overall risk of developing metabolic and cardiovascular disease over time. Thus, we must acknowledge a third critical key point. Repeated cycles of weight loss and regain, or weight cycling, may further slow a person's metabolism, disrupt vital biological pathways, and increase the risk of developing significant disease. Given the stark biological realities we have just discussed, the powerful adaptation to weight loss, and the defending of a new, higher set point, the sources point toward a clear conclusion. Prevention is, without question, easier than cure. The most effective strategy for managing weight across a lifelong duration is to avoid accumulating significant weight gain in the first place. This means being proactive when you anticipate or experience major life changes, such as starting a particularly demanding job, beginning the intense process of raising children, or going through periods of high personal stress. It becomes vital to consciously adjust your eating habits and diligently maintain your level of physical activity. By carefully matching your calorie intake to your actual current energy needs and ensuring you remain physically active, you can prevent that insidious upward drift in weight. It is this upward drift that, once established, sets the entire stage for the detrimental metabolic adaptation and the frustrating cycles of weight gain and loss. We must understand that once extra weight has been successfully gained and subsequently defended by the coordinated efforts of the brain and the body, it becomes dramatically harder to lose that weight and maintain the loss over the long term. The advice here is not to pursue drastic, rapid diets, which are often counterproductive. Instead, small, consistent adjustments made deliberately over time are presented as the surest and safest way to sustain a healthy weight and maintain excellent metabolic health. This leads to another highly practical key point. It is substantially easier to maintain a healthy weight than it is to first lose weight and then keep that weight off after an initial gain. The recommendation is clear. Adjust your existing habits immediately to align with life changes before any extra weight has a chance to accumulate, and make every effort to avoid starting those cycles of restrictive dieting and subsequent regain. To synthesize all of this vital information, let me review the main takeaway points that should inform our approach to long-term weight management, steering us away from the biological trap of weight cycling. First, do not automatically assume that any weight gain you experience in midlife is due to a faulty or slowing metabolism. For the great majority of adults, our metabolism remains fundamentally stable until we reach our 60s. Second, do recognize the dominant and critical role of lifestyle changes. Weight gain during the span of adulthood is primarily driven by reduced physical activity, coupled with an increase in overall calorie intake, not by some inevitable age-related metabolic decline. Third, do understand that genuine weight loss will trigger powerful metabolic adaptation. The body's hardwired response to losing weight is to slow down the metabolism and simultaneously increase the sensation of hunger, a duo of effects that makes weight regain much more likely to occur. Fourth, and perhaps most critical to breaking the cycle, do avoid repeated cycles of restrictive dieting followed by weight regain. This weight cycling pattern has the potential to further slow down your metabolism and severely disrupt your established metabolic health. And finally, fifth, do prioritize prevention above all else. The key is to consciously adjust your eating and your physical activity habits as soon as your life circumstances begin to change, with the aim of preventing the gradual weight gain from occurring in the first place. To leave you with the final overarching message from this discussion, lifelong weight management is easiest and most successful when you work to prevent weight gain entirely before it ever happens. Once extra mass is gained, it is then defended by a powerful arsenal of biological mechanisms within the body. Furthermore, the research indicates that repeated cycles of loss and regain can make future attempts at weight loss progressively and significantly harder. As always, everything I've discussed is grounded in peer-reviewed research, not personal opinions. If you'd like to explore the references or learn more, please check the episode notes. My goal is to empower you with clear, actionable science so you can make truly informed choices about your health. Thank you for listening to The Psychology of Health. Until next time, I hope today's insights help you navigate the complex realities of weight management with new clarity and confidence.